We're joined now by Senator John McCain. He has called for U.S. action in Syria since the beginning of the crisis. I'm pleased to have him back on this program. Welcome, Senator.
Well, thank you, Charlie. And could I say I listened to some of the dialogue that just went on with some excellent experts there. And could I just respond to a couple of points that they made very quickly? In Afghanistan, we abandoned it after the Russians left. If we had stayed, if we'd have played a role, I think most people agree that it may not have deteriorated the way that it did. As far as having seen the movie before in Iraq and Afghanistan, we've also seen another movie before. It was called Bosnia, another one called Kosovo, and to some degree Libya, where we used air power, and we used it to great effect. We did not put American boots on the ground, and so we did affect the outcome beneficially. The problem in Libya today is we're making the same mistake we made in Afghanistan in the 70s. We're just not giving them the help that they need and haven't given them that. As far as whether what the effect on Iran would be, the fall of Bashar Assad, that's why the Iranians are basically going all in. They're taking Syrians to Iran, training them, sending them back. They've got Iranian Revolutionary Guard on the ground. They have dramatically increased their supply to the point where Bashar Assad is able to carry out some offenses now. And so General Mattis, former head of Central Command, was right. A blow to Iran, the fall of Bashar Assad would be the greatest blow to Iran in 25 years. And as you say, all of the things that we argued would happen if we intervened have now happened that we haven't, that we did intervene. And finally, I'd just like to say, as we found out in other cases, our interests are our values and our values are our interests. It's not the United States of America to sit by and watch people massacred, raped, murdered, tortured, if we are able to do something about it. And that's a big if. No, we can't be everywhere. And we can't put boots on the ground in Syria because that would cause, frankly, a serious backlash in favor of Bashar Assad. But we can't move up incrementally. The conversations that you just mentioned that are going on in the White House, what I fear is an incremental increase, maybe getting some arms to the rebel. Well, that can be matched. That can be matched by the Iranians and the Russians. And so we're going to have something that changes the game dramatically, and that means a safe zone and an area where Bashar Assad is not able to use his air power. Air power is the decisive weapon in that kind of terrain and that kind of weather.
Okay, so let's go through what you're saying. You're not talking about troops on boots on the ground, A. B, you are talking about a no-fly zone or not?
We're talking about a no-fly zone, which the Israelis just, you know, in all due respect, I revere our military leadership. As you know, I come from a very long line of military people. But I know one thing, that some military leaders, if you don't want to do something, you can find a reason not to do so. Did you ever hear General Dempsey talk about how difficult it would be to penetrate Syrian air defenses, and they have the latest Russian equipment and it's the densest? Somehow the Israelis managed to act with a great deal of impunity. With cruise missiles, we could take out their air on the ground, we could crater their runways, and they're only using a few air assets, and we could use the Patriot missiles. I could go into more detail, but it's not that hard. The military is making it hard because the civilian leadership wants them to make it hard.
Okay, I mean, that is interesting, and I want to go back to I was reading this today, both Leon Panetta, Hillary Clinton, David Petraeus, and others recommended...
And General Clapper. And General Clapper,
the DNI,
Director of National Intelligence.
DNI, all recommended something. Do we know what they recommended?
They were recommending arming the rebels. And you know what's so bizarre is that both General Dempsey and General Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence, are saying, well, we did recommend that a year ago, but now it's too complicated. Well, doesn't that mean that it was a terrible, tragic failure, that we didn't act then and get these weapons to the right people then? And, of course, it's damned foolishness. Of course we can get the weapons to the right people. Of course, if we set up a Benghazi in Syria, we can get them to the right people. There are about 7,000 of these jihadists over a number of 100,000. Now, the jihadists are the best fighters. Hell, they fought all over the Middle East, and they are not afraid to die. But to somehow think we can't get weapons to the right people if we have an established place in Syria for this government, and by the way, it's a pretty damn good general we've got there now too, working for the resistance.
Do you think the president's credibility is at stake here?
Yeah, I think so. But you see, he never should have done that to start with, Charlie. It's okay to use Scud missiles and kill hundreds of people. It's okay to use mortars and heavy artillery. It's okay to use as an instrument of intimidation of gang rape and torture and murder. But that's all okay, but it's not okay to use chemical weapons. What's that all about? That's so repugnant, it's hard for me to talk about it without emotion, because I've been to refugee camps and seen the people and what's been done to them. So he shouldn't have done this, quote, red line to start with. And now, as one of the commentators, and I was only listening, I couldn't tell which one, pointed out that he probably didn't intend for it to be a red line if it's only small amounts. It puts him in a very puts him in a position where American credibility will certainly be questioned. But I believe that incremental efforts will be non-productive and a reason, again, not to be involved.
Well, one of them suggested, and it was Gary, I think, who suggested that you can't read too much in terms of what the Israelis did, because those facilities were down near the border and they were not near Damascus.
Well, some of the facilities that were taken out were in Damascus, and the fact is, with cruise missiles and with other standoff capabilities, we don't have to send our aircraft over within range of the Syrian air defenses.
What do you know about the Syrian air defense system?
I think they're sophisticated, but we spend hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayers' money every year on our military capabilities and the men and women who serve. And we can't take out the air defenses of a third-rate country, then American tax dollars are being terribly wasted.
Let me summarize and then go point by point here. What Dexter Filkins, who did a very good piece quoting you, among others.
Yes.
And he said, this is what a summary of what he said, that this is the administration's point of view. It will be hard to actually destroy Assad's chemical arsenal. Hard to destroy it. Okay, that's one.
I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree. But wouldn't it have been easier to secure these chemical weapon sites 2 years ago than it is today? Because we know that Assad is moving this stuff all around, and that makes it even more difficult. Look, this is a huge problem, these chemical stocks, and we have to work with an international coalition, in my view, if we expect to have any opportunity of getting these chemical weapons under control, which, by the way, we didn't get the weapons under control in Libya, and we didn't help them do it, and now those weapons are spread all over the Middle East.
Well, that's the biggest risk here, isn't it?
Sure, it's huge. Do you believe that Hezbollah would hesitate under circumstances to use a chemical weapon on Israel? I don't think so.
The second point that they make in the administration is what happens the day after Assad leaves, and who's going to be in control.
Again, it depends on how we help. It depends on what we do. It depends on whether this National Council is in Syria and working and organizing. You know, this is a country that's not given to Muslim extremism. This is a country that's pretty modern and pretty traditional in many respects. And again, it depends on what we do. If it's a light footprint, unquote, as we did in Libya, then I'm not sure what might ensue. But is the day after challenge less or greater than the continued deterioration of the situation as we sit by and watch? I think that's the choice.
You know what some of your critics say? They say John McCAIN, for every problem, wants to see robust military action.
Well, let me point out that I opposed sending the Marines to Lebanon. That's way back a long time ago. I supported President Clinton on Bosnia and Kosovo against a very significant part of the Republican Party. I'm the one that 2004 said that our strategy was failing in Iraq and we might as well get out unless we change it, and obviously fought for the surge, which succeeded. And now, tragically, because we didn't leave a residual force behind, it's unraveling badly. In Afghanistan, I have said we have done, General Petraeus and his predecessor and his successor, General Allen, have done a great job. But all we do is tell people in the region we're leaving. We don't tell them we're winning. We tell them we're leaving, and they are making the appropriate adjustment. I promise you, because I deal and meet with these leaders all the time, what they want is American leadership, not American boots on the ground. But they want American leadership, and since it's not there, they are accommodating the situation after we leave.
That argument is made that some of the people in Syria who have no great affinity for al-Qaeda or any other affiliated groups are saying because we can't get American support and because we want to see Assad gone, are making some kind of alliance, thinking that sometime later they can go back to another kind of competition.
Well, Charlie, let me tell you, I was in a Jordanian refugee camp. There were some 54,000 refugees, 3,000 coming in every night. I met with a group of the leaders. One, they were very angry and bitter that we weren't helping them. A school teacher said to me, she said, Senator McCain, see these children, or thousands of children. She said, see these children? They're going to take revenge on those who refuse to help them. That's what we're breeding in these refugee camps.
Right. Let me turn to Benghazi. What do you make of the new testimony that we have from an official of the State Department with respect to who knew what when?
Oh, I think it's something that's been going on for a long time, and it's really unfortunate that we haven't gotten the information. We're still fighting over the talking points. We still don't know who made up the talking points, although it's abundantly clear now that there were agencies of government and people who told the government that this was not a spontaneous demonstration. I happened to be on a Sunday show at the time, and I said, people don't bring mortars and rocket-propelled grenades to spontaneous demonstrations. And then why didn't they take those survivors who were flown out to Germany the next day and ask them what happened? I mean, because they knew what happened. And why, for 2 weeks later, did the President of the United States continue at the UN to talk about hateful videos and spontaneous demonstrations? Why is it we didn't have the assets in the region to be there in a 7.5-hour fight when the last 2 were killed in the last hour or so? There's so many questions that still haven't been answered. Hopefully this hearing will clear some of this up, but the administration has stonewalled on this issue as far as information is concerned.
And why do you think they're stonewalling?
I think at the time we were in a presidential campaign. The narrative of the Obama campaign was Osama bin Laden is dead, Al-Qaeda's on the run, they've been decimated. That's what Susan Rice said that morning. Al-Qaeda has been decimated. We know full well they're on their way back all over the Maghreb. But, and so it fit into the narrative of the presidential campaign that this was just bred by a hateful video rather than Al-Qaeda involvement. And that and how these talking points were manipulated is still something that's not clear. But one thing is clear: they left out reference to terrorist or Al-Qaeda out of original talking points, at least by some of the agencies, a couple of the agencies.
Senator McCain, thank you so much.
Thanks, Charlie.
Senator John McCain, back in a moment. Stay with us.